Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Cadence Weapon Rollercoaster. So when I last covered Canadian rapper Cadence Weapon in 2021 for his album Parallel World, I remember really liking his socially and politically charged content, but feeling a bit distant from the execution, where the minimalist, jagged electronics mostly worked to accentuate the dystopian paranoia, but didn't quite feel as striking as it could. I kept feeling like the sound and delivery could better match the content's intensity. So what happens if you narrow the focus and theme to something more distinctly online, confronting the struggle to exist in such spaces where the chilly synths and glassy percussion might fit that modern aesthetic even more sharply? Well, then you get Rollercoaster, which might be the most fully realized concept from Cadence Weapon to date, but also probably his most polarizing. Mostly because of his writing. Because the ugly truth about writing about working in online spaces is that due to the internet's collective sense of detached irony, which has only gotten worse with Gen Z, and gets flipped on and off whenever they feel like it because irony allows them to play a lazy power game around disaffected coolness that should really be left on 4chan at this point, the problem is that the majority will not take this sort of writing seriously, even if they themselves are very online, and especially if the writing gets increasingly blunt about that online experience. Because let's be real, Cadence Weapon is not wrong about the dystopian drudgery of having to exist on social media as an artist or creator, especially a black one. The marketing labor to force buzz to then be ruthlessly commodified by the cheap devaluation of art and his life, made even worse if the art is transgressive or blocked from larger consumption. The late capitalist blur of the experience with a pileup of buzzwords from any venture capital tech space, the cheapness of the endorphin rush, how rigged the system is when those who have enough capital to jumpstart a fake fan base or clout, and how it only serves to profit an already radically unequal music industry propping up nepotism and industry shortcuts, especially in Canada given the small and rather incestuous nature of this market and how aesthetic of success becomes its own currency. And given that Cadence Weapon won the Polaris for Parallel World, he's now even seen more of it. He's also keenly aware of is the impact that internet, social, and corporate capital it's gonna spill offline and can be used to wreck marginalized communities. The cheap conservative argument of, well, everyone's doing it, or everyone already knows it's a fact of life online, get over it, refuses to engage with how bad systems can and should be fixed or torn down, to say nothing of the material consequences if making art is how you actually eat. And what I appreciate is that by the album's ending, Cadence Weapon understands his own complicity in all of this. Even beyond the Canadian music industry, he's embraced a lot of the technological convenience and seen how it impacts offline relationships. He knows he's more emotionally invested in these systems than he probably should be. And there's a certain helplessness that comes in shouting about any of this or exposing any vulnerability online when the response will be, too long, didn't read. Where the final hook on the album closer includes, yo, I'm happy for you, or sorry that it happened, but I ain't reading all that. If you feel like you're shouting into the void, why mince words? Well, the argument will be that the bluntness might trivialize some of that experience, especially given how layered Cadence Weapon has been in the past. There might be an expectation from his older fans for greater poetic flair. But on the flip side, for an album that's about the closest thing to cyberpunk I have heard in some time, I'd say it's pretty damn effective. And unlike Billy Idol, there are layers and juxtaposition to imply that Cadence Weapon actually knows what he's talking about. On top of that, the production palette might be the best fit for this content in some time. While Bartees Strange initially provides some gentler acoustic backdrops for the opener and for a later cut, this album has the bleeping, icy electronics, the glitch, the metallic vocal mastering, and the blockier percussion that is borderline hyperpop and a very stark parallel to Charlie XCX or her most recent work, down to a really striking ambient interlude midway through. Now on the flip side, well, I get the compositional choice to have the songs feel so short and stripped down, damn near TikTok ready. That combined with the blunt lyricism can create the feeling of having more incisive depth being left on the cutting room floor. And with Cadence Weapon's delivery feeling so smooth and curt against some very minimal melodic support, I don't know, I keep feeling that these hooks should hit a little bit harder than they do, although some of this just might be my lingering frustration with hyperpop tones in this lane. I've talked about it with Charlie XCX. Still, with the blubbery glitch of blue screen between the snarled pulse of my computer, the contorted, borderline industrial EFT, the bassy swagger of bots, and the jittery flutters of Shadowbanned, with Miss Milano's vicious verse really sticking the landing, and then with the dying piano of TLDR as a near-perfect, more organic closer, yeah, a lot of this album goes off. And as a whole, there is a part of me that wants to call this his best, or at least close to it. It's idiosyncratic, it's forward-thinking, where it probably has more resonance for me as a creator online, but I also think it's polarizing and experimental, hitting the uncomfortable space of the album that the two online irony-poisoned folks need to hear, but that they will also be least willing to accept on its level, which for the purist, I'm sorry, it's not nearly as dumbed down as you might initially think. Everyone else, look, you're not going to hear many rap albums like this, for better or for worse. I personally think it's really good. Give it a shot. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. God, it's weird doing the call to action, especially after covering this album, but apparently it works. Maybe, I don't know. Beyond that, though, if you guys have comments about that, please leave them down there below. I'm curious where the diehard Cadence Weapons fans might fall in this. And hell, if you're into hyperpop, I'm curious if this is a good jumping on point for his sound. And hell, you might enjoy it more than you think you do. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in helping support the channel, yelling at me on my Discord server, or maybe getting albums on my schedule for when July swings around, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated. Tough times. I understand. The option is available. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.